lamp in that same design. 6 different tints of blue, green, and clear glass evoke the unique colors of the Chicago River water due to low algae content. And then look at the highest tower, my friends. 2 floors do not have walls. That is called a blow-through floor to confuse the wind. Who knows Chicago's nickname is the Windy City? You get a nor'easter coming off the lake 80 miles an hour, it wants to beat this building up. Guess what? You have to trick the wind. Now, a hero of mine, Bucky Fuller, who gave the world the geodesic dome like Epcot Center at Disney World down in Florida. Bucky taught at Southern Illinois University, yeah? And you know, he started his 6-hour lectures, 3 words: the wind sucks. Impressing upon us, there's no such thing as a blowing wind. It's a high pressure zone seeking low pressure. You got a problem with the wind in your building? Here's a tip: put a hole in it. Problem solved. It's gonna whistle right through. In front of us, the current 2nd tallest building in Chicago stands Trump International Hotel and Tower. Adrian Smith Architects, Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, 2009. It introduces us to the architectural style called contextualism. Architecture doesn't happen in a vacuum.
You guys want to stand up for a picture?
Everything is connected, everything is relative. Be a good neighbor. And that's why there are setbacks, patios. Every patio corresponds to the height of a neighboring building. Now, 45 degrees off the right, that gray box, 401 North Mich introduces us to modernism, the boxes which fill our modern cities. Modernism was born at the Bauhaus, the famous art school, 1920s Germany, merging industry and art. Now, the early modernists of the Bauhaus were no-nonsense, utilitarian, functional. They celebrated structure, materials, and walked around saying, you know, the brick is another teacher. But guess what they did not like on a building? They loved structure, they loved materials, they hated decoration. To the modernists, decoration was bourgeois, superfluous, dishonest. Express the structure. That's modernism. And it's a minimalist approach, right? Get rid of the decoration. What do you got left? 3 words. Skeleton, skin, space. That's my definition of modernism. Look at the building. When we say skeleton, of course, that's the frame holding the building up. When we say skin, the glass curtain wall, you hang off that frame, and space, most of the time, a box is square. 45 degrees off the right bow, a very intriguing building with mosque-like Moorish yellow onion skin dome stands the Hotel Intercontinental, project of the Shriners, 1929. It was the Medina Athletic Club. Someone had a wacky idea, I don't know why. They thought that yellow ball would be a perfect landing pad for airships like the Goodyear blimp. That's the worst idea in the city crammed with skyscrapers I've ever heard. They never landed any blimps up there. Let's just say that steampunk dream would die with the crash of the Hindenburg. And after that, blimps, dirigibles, and zeppelins, except for Led Zeppelin, fell out of favor. London has Big Ben, Paris the Eiffel Tower. I'll take the clock tower of the Wrigley Building. 1921, commissioned by chewing gum king William Wrigley Jr., who as a young man first sold juicy fruit gum at the World's Fair in Chicago, 1893. He brings the fair home. The Beaux-Arts, or City Beautiful style out of Paris, where classical prototypes were done to uplift the soul. Spanish revivalism. The clock tower of the Wrigley Building, modeled on the 11th century Giralda Tower in Sevilla in Spain. And from my favorite London architect, the Gherkin man, if you will, Sir Norman Foster's Apple Store, minimalism with a roof that looks like an Apple laptop. You want to do your shopping on What Magnificent Mile North right here. We call that in the French manner Boule de Mich, Boulevard Mich, as Burnham's plan was to turn Chicago into Paris on the prairie. Well, what happened to the bridge? Let's take it to the bridge. Notice the bridge is named DuSable Bridge. In Chicago, you don't forget where you came from. Jean-Baptiste Pont-du-Sable was a French-speaking fur trader from Haiti, and he started a fur trading empire right up there in 1779. After the tour, find his statue above the Apple Store. Take a selfie with our founder. 45 degrees to the left, the Beaux-Arts, City Beautiful influence of the World's Fair lives on in the beauty that is the Jewelers Building with cupola dome and classic water tanks. Inspired by a 15th century Italian monastery, the Certosa de Pavia, but built here for the diamond trade. Movie fans might remember Christian Bale as Batman sitting on that water tank in the movie Batman Begins, surveying his domain and probably thinking, wow, Chicago makes a quite cool Gotham City. Now from the Spanish architect Ricardo Bofill, directly ahead of us you see a soaring skyscraper with a Greek temple style roof. It's double coating or mixing style, 77 Wissahickon Drive. I mean, look at that building for a moment. It looks like a lonely skyscraper fell in love and married the ancient Greek Parthenon, and that's their child. And that double coating or mixing of classic and modern elements together, that's fine. This is an architectural style called postmodernism. After 30 years and nothing but boxes and architecture, people were bored. Postmodernists showed up and said everything's allowable. They became the DJs of the architectural world. So sampling in the architectural style, they felt like boots and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats, and turning a building into a mashup. Now for pure Bauhaus modernism, right there on your right, this black box was AMA Plaza, 1971. The final American commission by the father of modernism in America, Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, third director of the famous Bauhaus School in Germany, arriving in Chicago in 1938, and from his position at the Illinois Institute of Technology, spreading the less is more minimalist modern philosophy around the globe. He had a rebellious Chicago student named Bertrand Goldberg studying at the Bauhaus. Bertrand never liked boxes like his teachers and peers. He liked the circle. So when Bertrand Goldberg does a modern building, check it out. Circle gets the square with the Marina City Towers, which earned their nickname since 1967, the Corn Cob Towers. Now look at these. Goldberg called this curvilinear flower form. Here's how the man thinks. Like a flower, you start with a stem. Now that stem is housing the elevators and utilities.
That one right there.
And then the petals of the flower are the actual rings.
Before.
Start building from the base up. Very very cost efficient. And what you're looking at right here is a complete city within the city where all your needs are met at home. You got docking for boats, you got 4 restaurants, a bowling alley, a swimming pool, a bank, office space, and dry cleaners, George Jetson space-age parking, and your pie-shaped condos upstairs. Here's a little history. When Chicago got the railroads, we forgot our river. No pretty river walk. It was a back alley, a dumping ground, and yet people who work downtown wanted to live downtown, right? So Goldberg gave you a city within the city, everything right at home. Now friends, I caution you one thing. If you're gonna move to Marina City here, look at the parking garage again. Guess what? You will never park your own car again. You're not allowed. Only the professional parking valets can park the cars. Do you see why? What happens if you go in reverse by mistake? Yeah, you end up in the river. This is not pretty. Now, they did drive a Plymouth Cutlass off the 17th floor of that parking garage on purpose for Steve McQueen's last action movie, The Hunter, in 1980. The engine was in the front. The car was like an Olympic diver as it plummeted 24 feet, about 12 meters to the bottom of the river. I gave it a 9 out of 10 for its dive. Step back with me to 1913. Let's go one bridge ahead and look at the old red brick building with a clock tower. We call Chicago Museum of Architecture because of so many styles, and this from 1914 is what the entire river would have looked like 100 years ago. The old Reed Murdoch warehouse introduces us to adaptive reuse. I love that. Instead of wasting new materials, adaptive reuse means you're going to find the grand old building and repurpose it for today. So here we have over 100-year warehouse thriving as an industrial-sized restaurant called the River Roast, and it's also home, even in the age of the internet, to Encyclopedia Britannica. The profile is much more horizontal than vertical. The architect George Niemann's, like the great Frank Lloyd Wright, who's heard that architect's name, associated with a style that came right out of the Midwest here. We call it Prairie School. Look around you, we have, that's right, you're doing the right way, below the crown, the Queen's Wave. Yeah, that's it, side to side. Yeah, if you're waving people, I always suggest the Queen's Wave. So it's hugging the horizon. It's much more vertical. That's that Prairie School influence right there. Now friends, I will tell you the truth of how Chicago became birthplace to the skyscraper. We had no other choice. After the Great Chicago Fire in 1871, the city logically concluded you would not be allowed to build with wood in downtown Chicago anymore, leaving you with brick masonry. But if you have a load-bearing exterior brick wall, every time you add a new floor, the base wall gets 6 inches wider to support it, you've lost all your floor space to support. So we can actually trace the evolution of the modern architectural frame to 1885. A Civil War bridge builder, William LeBaron Jennings Home Insurance Building, introduces the iron and steel frame, leading to the first Chicago School of Architecture. Simple steel frame buildings, 10 or 12 stories, but using the same construction technique that the 100-story modern buildings use today. On our right, the style to put the roar in the roaring 20s, Art Deco, the 1930 Chicago Merchandise Mart. Art Deco, rather streamlined, sleek, machine-made look, came out of an exhibition in Paris, France, 1925. When we talk about Art Deco, you could think of the Great Gatsby, the writer F. Scott Fitzgerald, the Jazz Age. Whoa, I'm doing Graham hands. America in the 1920s was a period of unbridled optimism and prosperity. Art Deco reflected the era. You are looking at the largest structure in America prior to completion of the Pentagon. 4,600 windows, 7 miles of hallways. It had its own zip code. It cost a whopping $38 million in 1930. The Marshall Field Department Store commissioned it. They dreamed of a giant wholesale market and woke up to the Great Depression. Sold it for $13.5 no back taxes to Joe Kennedy by 1945. Joe walks inside and realizes 4 million square feet of space, meaning you could fit 73 American football fields inside those walls. A lot of space, right? Suits the furniture design industry, and Joe pioneers the idea of the trade show out of Chicago's merchandise market. Now, welcome to the beginning of Chicago, Wolf Point, the confluence of the 3 branches of the river. We approach from the east, north branch right, south branch left. And the birthplace of downtown became a showplace for our greatest architecture as early as 1983 with the Nuveen building curved on your left. That's contextualism. Everything's about the river. That building said, yo, you think you're going to build around me? You bring your A game. And everyone has. Let's start with a building with a red sculpture, Constellation, by Spanish architect Santiago Calatrava. The building by Pickard and Chilton is called Riverboat. The arch at the bottom was inspired by the Great Arch of St. Louis, Missouri. And then you look at the top, and it's got an inverted parabola right there.
He proposed.
Yes, yes. Congratulations on your nuptials. So if you look at the entire shape of this building before we lose it, my friends, you know who understands it best? Little kids. They took one look at the shape of that building and nicknamed it the Hot Pocket Sandwich Building because it looks like the microwave heating sleeve for a popular American pastry. And friends, when you give a building a nickname, I want you to consider this. You are seeking gestalt, common ground. A building's nickname is always an image from your experience applied to a new shape. We're going to tour just a bit of the North Branch now. This is a working industrial river of river barges in the midst of a recreational and residential renaissance. A pioneer of living along the river was that salmon-colored building on our left, or as Larry David would say, that salmon-colored building on our left. Harry Weiss's 1981 Fulton House. This building was built in 1898 and refrigerated for 70 years. Can you imagine forgetting to defrost your freezer for 70 years? Little bit of buildup. So, this building was refrigerated. They had pipes full of ammonia and brine, keeping it cold. So, Harry had to defrost for half a year, 6 months, and remove 500 semi-truckloads of ammonia, brine, horsehair cork insulation. I love the architect Harry Weiss. He went around the world for ideas, found himself in Amsterdam. He sees these quaint
like
fishermen's
stars.
cottages. He comes home and he does a postmodern twist on the townhome with the 4 river cottages from 1988, looking rustic, yet all the modern amenities inside. I can't believe it. If I could afford to live here, I'd never ever leave. But somebody sold number 3 in 2015 for $2.25 million. Nautical theme. You know what? Harry was going to live here himself once, and his friends were like, what are you, goofy, Harry? Nobody wants to live in that dirty river. Harry answered, water is a magnet that draws people to it. I think Harry Weiss understood the psychologist Carl Jung, that we humans, Spock, have a Jungian archetype in our brain. We long for the sea, the great blue, the azure. And if you don't have an ocean of your own nearby at home, stay with me in Chicago. And a day may come for you, as it came for me when I awoke in the city singing, a river is enough. A river is enough.
El río es suficiente. A river is enough. I'll leave you with that thought. Let's take a short break to rest and digest. This is a great time to go visit bar. Jesse wants to make you a drink. We'll turn the boat around and head south.